Good evening and welcome to the January 5th, 2022 meeting of the Hyde Park Planning Board. Before I actually open up the meeting, let me first take care of one housekeeping item. I want to welcome heartily our newest board member, John Guercio Jr. Welcome, John.
Hi.
Welcome, John.
John.
Thank you.
On behalf of the rest of the board, we appreciate you expressing your interest in stepping up. It's a lot of work and the learning curve is a little steep at first, but I promise you, you'll get there. And I think you'll really enjoy it the way the rest of us do as well. Let me first note that we are conducting this meeting still under the auspices of New York State's emergency legislation, which allows open meetings laws to be suspended so we can have public meetings such as this held remotely. But as part of that, I need to confirm that each member is alone, or at least there's no one around you trying to exert undue influence on how you might vote. Ms. Weiser.
I'm alone.
Mr. Waters.
Alone.
Ms. Wasser.
I'm alone.
Mr. Oliver.
I'm alone.
Ms. Kane.
I'm alone.
Mr. Guercio.
I'm alone.
And Vice Chair Dexter.
I'm alone.
As am I as well. Please join me as we salute the American flag. And unfortunately, I do not have a picture of the American flag to share. I pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The first item on the agenda is a continued public hearing for Camp Victory Lake. The applicants are seeking approval of a master plan as well as phase one, which will involve a sanctuary or church. Making a motion to reopen the public hearing.
Oh, it's me. So moved.
Second, Rob Waters.
Thank you. All in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
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 Any motions or abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Peter, let me turn it over to you.
Excellent. Hey, everyone. Happy New Year.
Here.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Just for the record, again, Peter Sander from Running Engineering, representing the applicant. This is for the Camp Victory Lake project between North Quaker and Crum Elbow Road. We're here tonight to review the master plan and the phase one development plan for the project. Can I share my screen real quick just to give a little presentation? Excellent.
Yes, we should.
Alrighty. Everyone can see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. So phase one of the overall proposed master plan, being at its camp, it needed a master plan to kind of guide its future development. There's plenty of really cool stuff here. There's a BMX course, there's camping facilities, mini golf course, a whole rework of the existing camp. Most importantly would be the phase one aspect, which is the construction of the 47,000 plus or minus square foot religious sanctuary, which will act as office space, it will act as rehearsal space, and most importantly act as like an assembly space for about just under 4,000 people, for 4,000 seats. The proposed structure is going to be a 47,000. So you'll have the office space to the west and then the sanctuary space to the east. Also included as part of the proposed construction is the construction of 2 new parking facilities and some smaller ones being this access lane here and some bus parking. There's also the relocation of some existing cabins and just general additional improvements such as landscaping, grading, and all of that. Overall, so we've worked with the town to kind of get this into the location that it is, with it previously being located on the northern end of the camp and having relocated it to the southeastern portion for some environmental concerns. At this point, we're fairly confident in where it's located, how it's laid out, and at this point, we're just kind of working through some final issues between the town planner and the town engineer and just making sure all comments are addressed. Other than that, I would look forward to hearing any public comment.
Thank you, Mr. Sanders. First, just because we have a new board member. John, if you saw the image that Peter displayed, if you noticed on the far right where the parking is on the northern side of the church, he'll show it to you. So if you notice, there's some parking that's aligning with Quaker Lane. Our code requires that all parking be behind the front line of a building. So the parking that you see that's kind of jutting out up there on the right, and the parking that you see that's also below on the south side. In prior discussions, the board indicated it would be willing to relax this standard. It is a standard, so it's always supposed to be that all parking should be behind building lines, front building lines. But in this case, because it's a really big church, it needs a lot of parking. The board, I would just want to point that out to you, the board allowed that. In addition, you're not seeing this at the moment, but there's also substantial screening proposed between the building and also the parking area and North Quaker Lane. It's shown in other plan sets later on. We do have responses from county planning. We had responses from the fire department, but we're still awaiting responses basically so we can conclude seeker. Again, for Mr. Guercio's benefit, before the ZBA can take action on the number of variances that are being requested over there, we also need to conclude seeker because seeker must be done before they can grant the variances. So we're still waiting a little bit more information as to that. We also still have some memos from Clark Patterson Lee, our engineering consultants, as well as Nelson Pope Voris, our planning consultants, that will need to be addressed in the interim. So that noted, this was really kind of a way for us to see if there were any other public comments before Mr. Sanders was able to go back and then redo the plans, et cetera. In the interim, we've had some discussion with the Zoning Board of Appeals. They apparently have some concerns that I think, Mr. Sanders, you were going to address tonight, one of which is the relocation of the proposed small residential housing units. And Peter, we haven't been privy to what the discussion has been with the ZBA. Can you sort of sum that up for us or give us some details about it?
Yeah, so to recap, we are actually in front of the planning board for two variances, one being the height variance for 12.5 feet. And the way we have the building laid out is that there is a current maximum building height of 35 feet, but we're proposing 47.5. And that is the way that we have the building laid out is that this portion of the structure will be located at a higher level than the northern portion. So in order to calculate the building height, we get the average grade and then get that to the midpoint of the highest roof. So that ultimately results to a 12.5 foot variance. And then the other part of the variance that we are requesting is an encroachment within the 100-foot stream or waterway buffer. So as you can see, this line here, this is the 100-foot line from Victory Lake, which is a man-made lake that's dammed up down here. So we have several improvements kind of going within there, including part enhancement of the stream crossing for the buses. But in particular, the zoning board had some concerns regarding the relocation of these cabins. So currently, those structures are located, right in here. So they're up on this knoll, but we need this for the parking to provide adequate enough parking. So we figured that we would relocate them along this existing ridge line so they kind of get an overlook of the lake and can peer out over it, more aesthetic. And so that's where the zoning board has their concerns. In my opinion, their most prominent concerns. So to kind of mitigate that, because they were worried about runoff affecting Victory Lake and the Fallkill Creek. So part of our concerns were we're going to provide enhanced matting around here so that there would be no stormwater runoff. And then I was toying with the idea of providing some additional landscaping to kind of enhance that area. For the point of the 100-foot corridor buffer is to kind of preserve natural habitat within the area so that native species could use it for transit reasons. But that portion of the site is actually all pretty much grass. So there's really not adequate habitat there. And so we were thinking about maybe adding some additional plantings to kind of enhance that. So I just wanted to pull up an image of the site so I can kind of show you how it really is pretty much all grass in that area. But my internet is taking about half a year. So
Okay, don't worry.
sorry, someone out. Yeah. So here is the actual project site now. So as you can see, this is going to be where the parking area is. These are the existing cabins. So we'll have to move it there. It should also be noted that we actually do have some improvements along there currently, including some docks for watercraft, light watercraft. And then you can't see it, but behind this tree, there's an existing amphitheater. So you can see the steps right in there. So that goes right up to the shoreline. So to kind of summarize that, this is not as much of a pristine habitat. The habitat that was noted as significant and worth preserving was in the northern section up here, which was identified early on in the process as having potential blanding turtle habitat. So initially we had this building proposed up here. So we moved it down here because of just general site disturbance and less significant habitat. And I think
So I'm
that
going to
summarizes everything.
I was going to summarize for you real quickly, and that is that the purpose of why we have the 100-foot stream corridor, which is 100 feet on either side of the center line of the stream, is to allow movement of all animals, not just endangered, threatened, or rare species, but all animals because they like walking along water courses. But as noted by Mr. Sanders, this has already been highly disturbed over the years. I could even say over the decades, because this is an older camp. So, and again, for those of us who were on the board when this was first proposed, this was proposed initially, the church, the sanctuary, was going to be proposed, as Peter noted, in the northwestern corner. That's the highest, most valuable habitat. So one of the reasons that drove the design and the layout now was so as to avoid the more sensitive habitat areas on the other side of the lake. That's where more passive type recreation was pulled into, including hiking trails, et cetera. Leave that area intact. Yes, to preserve the wetlands, et cetera. So, and when you mentioned landscaping, Peter, are you thinking maybe putting in native habitat, native species of plants, trees, shrubs, et cetera, in through there to make it more normal for animals to traverse it? Or were you thinking just more screening? What was in your mind in terms of landscaping?
I was thinking some more native bushing. What I wanted to do is get some research into some more water resistant plantings. I know red maples are excellent trees for water, and really dive into there and maybe potentially enhance this existing, like right now it's currently grass, but if I could get some additional plantings in there, kind of shore up the habitat, I think that would go a long way and to help preserve the site and kind of help mitigate whatever encroachment we're providing.
I tend to agree. And by the way, Ms. Moss is pretty much an expert on plants which help wick up for water, which can help preserve, which can help anchor the sites as well, the actual banks themselves. So if you want to pass anything informally over to Tad, me, Mr. Oliver, he's a landscaper, we'll be happy to give you informal opinion on it.
Perfect.
And let me then start with our consultants. Let me go to Mr. Sotero. Any comments?
No, not at this time. We're waiting for a resubmission, and then we'll assist with the seeker determination when we're ready for that.
Perfect. Thank you. Ms. Franson, any comments?
No, not this time. Same as what Peter expressed. We're just waiting for them to revise the plans based on all the comments that have been received and finalize seeker.
Thank you. Ms. Moss, any comments?
Are you muted?
I can't see Tad.
She's unmuting. She's muted.
Okay.
She does have a comment. Her comment is that the requirement is 100 feet from the banks, not the center line.
Oh,
the
that's right.
corridor setback.
That's right.
So she just wants to make sure we're using the correct terminology.
Thank you.
Oh, you know what? You're not a co-host. Let me unmute you. Hold on.
I forgot to make her one.
There we go.
There we go. Okay. Yeah, that was my comment about the 100-foot from the banks, not the center line. I'd be interested to hear what other activities are along the bank. It appears as though there are some, maybe some fencing or an area for campers to line up before getting on the boat. So I think this is a disturbed area, and I think that enhancing it would be helpful.
Thank you, Tad. I agree. Particularly because it's been, most of the really good stuff has been removed for so long ago that you do want to make this a more intact area again. Ms. Polidoro, any comments?
I just want to note for the board, because we haven't done this in a while, that when a project requires site plan review and also requires area variances, that the code does allow you to send a recommendation over to the Zoning Board of Appeals. So if you have enough information, or once you receive more on the height and this corridor, you could authorize the chair to send a letter to the zoning board with your concerns or recommendations on the requested variances.
Mr. Sanders, one of the reasons that we had this meeting tonight is that we had asked for verification from the architect as to how the visual analysis was provided to make sure it was scaled correctly, et cetera. Were you able to contact the architect to?
I have it right here. It was going to be included as part of my resubmission. I figured you guys might ask about it.
Okay. If you can send this over, we'll have Ms. Franson analyze just to make sure that everything is on the up and up, but I'm going to guess that it is. Because that's really part of what I'm relying on to make the recommendation, or at least in my head, of why we should be able to exceed 35 feet. Is that this is a multi-use structure. It's not just for religious uses, it's also for performances, et cetera. You do have several times of the year when there are large groups of people there. There we have a photo simulation of what it will look like. And that's without, I'll note again, that's without any of the landscaping that's proposed to be added. That's just with existing vegetation. So thank you.
Correct.
And Mr. Sanders, in the interim, we also received comments from Dutchess County Planning that you should also respond to as part of your next submission. I think you already know that, but just me being a friendly reminder there, as well as to the Nelson Pope Voris memo of October 20th and the Clark Patterson Lee memo of August 30th. So let me start with my colleagues. Ms. Weiser, any additional comments?
No additional comments. I'm just looking forward to you being able to get started.
Me too.
Mr. Waters, any comments?
I reserve my comments for a later time.
Thank you. Ms. Wasser?
Same, no comments at this point. I've been happy with everything I've seen so far, just waiting for the next round of info.
Thank you. Mr. Oliver?
I also have no new comments at this time and looking forward to getting started. Thank you.
And Mr. Gercio, any comments? Because this is all brand new. Let me rephrase that. Any questions or any comments, John?
No questions, no comments. It's interesting.
This has been kind of thrown at you, I'm aware. And just so everyone knows, John was just appointed Monday night, and he just got all his files today. We were sworn in together outside in the cold air. So, but as I said, we spent some time out there. I talked to him. He's ready to go. Ms. Dexter, any additional comment?
No additional comments. Thank you.
And I've already covered what I was going to say. Did anyone from the public sign up to speak about this application? Peter, can you quit sharing your screen so I can see everyone again real quickly?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. If anyone signed up from the public to speak about this, just please raise your hand. There's a raise hand function as well as you can raise your hand on the screen.
I was not notified of anyone signing up.
I didn't think there was anybody up to speak. So, Peter, when would you like us to, I don't know how long it's going to take you to revise the submission, answer all the comments, et cetera. When would you like us to adjourn this to? February 16th or to March the 2nd?
I'm thinking 16th is, me and Cynthia were talking about this earlier. I think the 16th will be the best, because then I could kind of get in front of you guys and then the ZBA as well and kind of work that out. So I think 16th, I'm not going to be overzealous and say I'm going to make it this time. So the holiday season really got me this year.
It's okay. Considering that we had, what was it, like a stew of COVID transmissions out there, particularly in this area there for a while. I'm surprised it didn't fell more people. So at any rate, they may get a motion to adjourn this public hearing to February 16th.
I'll make that motion. Rob Waters.
Second, Stephanie Wasser.
Any further discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand and signify by saying aye.
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 Happy 2022. I should say, Peter, as you said earlier, it's great to see you again.
Mr.
No more
Chairman,
holidays, so we're all working again. Yes, Ms. Dexter.
did we want to authorize you to send to author a letter to the Hyde Park Zoning Board of Appeals, a comment letter on this?
I was going to ask for discussion on that real quickly. Are we all in favor of recommending the height variance of 12.5? I see Chris saying yes.
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 A three, that's three.
I'll make that
Rob
motion.
Waters, yes.
Yes.
How about if I make that motion?
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second that. Ann Weiser.
All in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
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 I will have the letter ready to go at our next meeting for your perusal. I'll actually have it beforehand for your perusal. Is there a position you want to take on the relocation of the cabins? Do you want to keep them where they are, but ask for the enhanced landscaping that would add to the natural elements?
Yes.
Or do you want to see them moved completely into another area, which is what the ZBA seem to be thinking? And is saying no, because I agree.
I
Since
like
the
the
areas already,
cabins where they are.
they should stay where they are. Stephanie?
I agree. They just add the landscaping.
Yes.
I think
Bob?
it'll be very pleasant to have them where they are. It'll be a nice view for the people who are staying there. So it's lovely.
And Chris, and you want to weigh in on that one either, the cabins?
I think they should stay where they are and just do the enhanced landscaping. I'm fine with that.
You've made my job very easy in writing this letter. So thank you all.
Same here.
And did we take a vote on that? All in favor? Yes, aye.
Again, we already voted.
Motion carried. Okay, thank you.
And
Sorry.
Michael, excuse me, and that's also supporting the height, yes?
That's supporting the height as well.
Okay.
Well, the vote was on the height variance, so.
Oh, not the cabins.
It was authorizing the letter. The motion.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not really on the height. I just wanted to make sure I had enough people that I knew what the majority wanted. So the majority would like the height and for the location of the cabins to remain as is. So Mr. Sanders and Ms. Lambert, it's good to see you as always.
Good
I
to
think you
see
heard
you.
positive things tonight.
Yes, thank you. Happy New
Awesome.
Year.
Thank you very much, everyone.
You're welcome. And we're going to keep this moving forward till we get to the
Yeah.
final end and approval of this master plan, because it's a cool master plan concept.
Thanks, Kevin. Thank you, everyone.
Happy New Year.
Thank you. Have a nice night.
Happy New Year.
And
Happy
stay
New Year,
safe.
everyone.
evening.
Have a good one.
You too. Bye.
Bye.
The next item on the agenda is the Holt property lot line alteration. To remind everyone, this is actually a very simple request to alter some lot lines, create a couple of new lots. It seemed complicated by the fact that, again, we now have an entrance or potential entrance and exit off St. Andrews, because that is a limited access road. Again, I want to thank Mr. Martin for providing all the documentation he did from way back when with the county legislature. We actually held this open just in terms of time, making sure that we had enough appropriate ability for people to comment based on the newest maps that we had. Making a motion to reopen the public hearing.
I'll make that motion. Chris Oliver.
Thank you.
I'll second it, John.
There you go.
All
in favor,
right.
please raise your hand and say aye.
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 Hi.
Motion carries unanimously. If you recall, Rob, I didn't have to do anything in the first two meetings, but I went ahead and threw John into the water immediately. So I think that we have not had any public comment on this application in the past. Did anyone sign up to speak on this application either, Cynthia? Do you know? Nope. Okay.
I didn't receive any pre-registrations for any of our public hearings today.
We are prepared to close the public hearing tonight to take action in 2 weeks so that we can still, since we're still meeting remotely, in case someone sees this tonight and wants to speak, they'll be able to. Mr. Martin, do you want to add anything?
Victoria,
yeah.
did I mute him?
Yep.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
No, I have nothing to add. I think the plan speaks for itself, and I think everyone's on board as to what Mr. Holt is looking to do.
And any comments from the consultants?
I
Yes.
think I'm still waiting on meets and bounds. So we can work on that in between now and the next meeting.
I'm sorry, meets and bounds from whom, Victoria?
From you?
For the
That's the first I'm
reconfigured
hearing it.
lots, correct?
Yeah. So, right, I just have a note in my notes that we were still waiting on the submission of meets and bounds.
You want descriptions for each of the parcels?
Yes, we are going to need those.
For
Or
what
not
reason?
descriptions. You know what? Let's follow up after the meeting, Ernie.
Okay,
I was going to say, I think I know what that's for, but let's just follow that up. So if there's no public comment, any comments from the board? There being
No.
none and no comments from our consultants, making a motion to close the public hearing. You're up, John.
Oh. Okay, motion to close.
Thank you. Is there
I'll
a second?
second that, Chris.
Any further discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
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 Any nays or abstentions? That motion carries as well. And we'll have a resolution prepared for the next meeting, but in the meantime, Ernie, you and Victoria kind of get together and you can converse as much as you need to.
okay.
All right?
I'll reach out to you, Victoria.
Okay.
The next item on the agenda is Key Construction, and I'm recused from this, as I believe is now Victoria Polidoro, but I'll let her announce that. So let me turn this over to Vice Chair Dexter. If someone can just text me whenever you're ready for me to come back on, then I will come back on. Okay?
Thank you, Chairman. I don't think it will be long tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks so much. I'm gonna just ask Victoria to just make a quick comment.
Yeah, hi, board members. I just want to provide a reason for my recusal. I now have a pending proposal to be zoning board attorney. It's pending before the town board right now. As this application right now involves the supervisor who would be voting on that proposal, I'm recusing myself to avoid the appearance of impropriety. This may resolve itself, once that application is no longer pending. So,
Thank you. Yep, we try to take an abundance of caution when it comes to that, as you can tell. I don't believe we have either Amy or Kelly on the call tonight. That's because we had been planning on having a secret determination to vote on, but because of the switch in a planning board attorney, we are now asking our planner, Ms. Bonnie Franson there, to draft a negative declaration resolution. So we should be able to have that for the 19th, which will be the meeting before Key Construction goes before the ZBA. So we should have all the materials needed. We can settle the seeker question, and then they can go before the ZBA, and then we can just tie up the loose ends that still hang out. So let's talk about what those loose ends are at this point. I'm going to start with Pete.
We are, from an engineering standpoint, we're in pretty good shape. I have one very, very minor comment based upon the latest stormwater pollution prevention plan, which will document in a memo. But all our prior comments are addressed. The applicants are before the various agencies, the health department, the DEC, and also the Department of Transportation. They have applications into all those agencies. So, from my standpoint, I think we're in pretty good shape, and I'll assist Bonnie with helping to draft the negative deck for the next meeting.
Oh, really appreciate that, Pete. Thanks so much. I think you also mentioned that we're going to talk to the applicant about a phasing plan.
Yeah, I sent an email, today. That was the one last comment we had on the stormwater plan because they're disturbing more than 5 acres. They need to have a phasing plan for that. And so that's going to be in our memo. And I'll also add that the one item that Victoria was going to be looking at was they were going to provide some more information on an existing driveway easement that goes off their access road to the north. So once they provide that, I think between, Bonnie and myself and Tad, we're smart enough, to look at that, and we'll be able to see if that's valid or if it needs to be updated. So I think we can, handle that. So.
Great, yeah, and as far as I know, those really are the only items that we're going to continue to refine. And none of those are seeker items, so shouldn't impact our ability to move ahead with the seeker. Bonnie, do you have additional comments?
I don't. I had my prior memo, and at this point, I think most has been addressed. I will work on the draft negative declaration for the board's review. There are some permit applications that are out there, but because we are doing coordinated review, those agencies can't act on those permits without the negative declaration being adopted. So that really is the next step in the process, and I'll work with Pete and Ann and everybody to get that together for you all.
Excellent. Yeah, I think we're moving along well. Tad, do you have any comments? Okay, I can read lips. I believe you said no. Let me just poll the board here. Stephanie, do you have any comments?
No further comments, thanks.
Okay, Chris?
No further comment. Thank you.
All right, Rob?
I think the last time Kelly was before us, I had discussed that the elevations weren't correct, and that she was going to do her best to get them to correct those. And that's that side entry, not the main. I don't think it's the main entry. I think it's the side entry.
And that was on one of the storage buildings?
That's on the main building, the office
Okay.
building with the
parking, right?
With the parking.
It was the entry right across from the driveway into the residential storage units.
Right, okay.
Yep.
Well, I know she took notes, so, but I will keep that in
She's
front of us.
pretty
make sure.
detailed too. So, yeah.
Okay, great. Tori?
No further comments.
Okay, Ann?
No additional comments, thanks.
All right, did I get her? Oh, and John, do you live like really close?
My property borders the backside of that location.
Oh, okay, cool.
So my entrance is off Cardinal Road.
Yep.
And if you were to walk straight across, you'd come out on his property. So.
Okay, so you know the area well.
Well, I'm sorry?
You know the area well.
Oh, yeah. I've ever since I was a little kid.
Oh, pretty cool. All right. Well, hopefully you'll get a chance to review. There's a lot of documentation, but we have worked through. There were only really minor issues on this project. The site, as you know, was in use as a drive-in theater for years, so it was completely disturbed to create that. And the applicant has done all of the requisite studies. They've gone through. They did a threatened and endangered species study. We've had DEC out. They delineate the wetlands.
Mm-hmm.
So all of the things that we're supposed to be looking at have gone through, and we're getting really close to concluding seeker, and then they can go to the ZBA for their. They need a variance for the amount of square footage that they have. They're exceeding our 40,000 square feet, and I guess.
Is that based off, I'm sorry, is that based off the land, size of the land, the number of acres, or the zoning?
It's the bulk table for that district.
Okay, yeah.
Is that right, Tad?
It's the scale.
It's the scale. Poor Tad. Can you not unmute? You can't unmute?
Let me see if I can unmute her.
It just says we can ask her to unmute. It doesn't
Yeah.
say. What's going on?
There we
Oh,
go.
There you are.
Somebody let me. So the scale is the square footage of all the buildings plus the parking stalls.
Okay, all right.
And it doesn't matter whether the site is 100 acres or the site is, an acre and a half.
Okay,
The scale is the same based on the district.
okay. Yeah, the driveway was built in 1963. So, yeah, it's pretty disturbed.
Yeah. And we've all spent, if you're local, you've spent time there
Yeah.
watching all the many movies that they had.
Yeah.
Since you are aware of the site, do you have any questions or concerns about it?
No, I mean, I've got to look, I've got to look at what they've given me because I don't really
Yeah.
have any idea what the layout is, the structures.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, I realize that you just came on board, so hopefully you'll get a chance to give that a
I'm
good
sure it's
look.
fine. I mean, it sounds like it's all gone through and probably looks great. I mean, I'm welcoming it and I'm a neighbor, so.
Okay, good,
So-
good. Sounds great. All right, so Pete, you'll be getting a comment letter out that can go to Kelly and Amy and,
Yeah.
okay, good. All right, so I don't believe we have anything else to cover.
And we have to adjourn the public hearing, right?
Yeah, I'm just looking to see before I.
Did we open the hearing?
No.
yet?
No.
'Cause we haven't opened it yet.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
That's okay, but we want to open it before we
Yes,
adjourn.
please.
Okay, I'll make a motion to open the public hearing.
And I will second that.
Great. All in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
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 Bye.
Thank you. Sorry about that. I guess the only other item I wanted to discuss was, since our next meeting is on the 19th and they will be going before the ZBA on the 26th, does the board want me to draft a letter to the ZBA regarding, our recommendation for them to approve the scale increase? I saw a thumbs up, one.
I'm
Sounds
okay
good.
with that.
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
great. Then can I get a motion to allow me to draft, to draft a letter to the ZBA recommending the scale increase?
So moved. Stephanie Wasser.
I'll second it.
Rob, thank you.
Rob. Yeah.
All in favor? Say aye,
Aye.
please.
Aye.
Thank you so much. Okay, great. Now, can I have a motion to adjourn this to January 19th?
I'll make that motion, Chris Oliver.
And I'll second that, Tori Kane.
All in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
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 Thanks so much, everybody. Great. Can we page
Oh,
our,
the
Happy
chairman.
New Year, Tori.
Paging Michael. Thank you so much. Happy New Year to all of you.
Hi,
you
Tori.
too, Tori. See you in 2 weeks.
Okay. Have a great night.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
I sent a text to Michael, so hopefully he saw
Okay,
it.
good. And there's Victoria. Good. All right, what's next?
Okay.
Oh, we're done with the public hearings. Okay, good.
Let's see if Chris can speak here.
Thank you, Vice Chair, for taking over in my absence. The next item on the agenda is a new application for everybody. So in this instance, Mr. Gercio, you're no different than the rest of us. This is entitled Disabled Veterans Bee Farm. This is proposed to be located at 47 Morris Drive. This is an interesting parcel because it's actually a really large amount of acreage, and which is interesting because the rest of the neighborhood that it's attached to or that it's located very nearby has rather small parcels. So this is an application for a multi-use. One would be to establish and locate beehives. This would be a commercial production of sorts. The applicant has not indicated that they're going to be looking for any kind of ag exemption. It's not quite to that level yet. It's also to be utilized for occasional horses to be coming in and use, I'll say passively for the most part, These are, again, sensory elements for veterans to have something to do, to experience. The applicant, Mr. Peltier, there's Chris, will explain that this is actually very beneficial in terms of reducing post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSO. And this is actually just a voluntary thing that Mr. Peltier and his wife do for the veterans themselves. So let me turn it over to you, Chris, and you can give a better description of what you're proposing, what's there.
Okay. Okay, there you go. Me and my wife build homes for disabled veterans pretty much all around the Westchester, Dutchess, and Putnam. We do a lot of rehabilitation houses. We bought this property a few years back, which is raw land. We're building a home on it right now that's for disabled veterans and usage. We have a bunch of horse stables in the area that recently have lost their or losing their land because of the land grab, and they're looking for places to walk horses and exercise their horses and whatnot. And we have a lot of disabled veterans that come and use our property. The veterans are allowed to use the horses for free. The stables are actually need people to walk the horses, so it's actually a win-win for both. We're not doing it for any kind of money purposes or whatnot. The stables have offered it, but we're not looking at trying to make any money for it. It's just basically a plus to help out disabled veterans. We have a bunch of veterans who are interested in beekeeping, where they can build bees. It's beehives and whatnot. A lot of them are woodworkers, guys who are just looking. A lot of the veterans, actually, we built a house on that property, and we're still in the process. We're just waiting for some more finishes, and then we'll have Don Westmeyer come out and do our final walkthrough for our CO. But the house is open and used to four-wheelers. We also to veterans. We also let the veterans do four-wheeling on the property. Also, a lot of the neighbors use the property as well. The law that passed in, there's not a lot of space for the guys to use four-wheelers. So we let the guys use the four-wheelers on the property because it's the boundary away from other people's houses. It's kind of a win-win for all the neighbors again. So, and a lot of people are just interested in learning a new thing of doing beekeeping. So we talked to DC. We got, all the approvals there. They encourage it. They said it's a lot of pollinators are needed. It's another win-win. It's just, we like I said, me and my wife, we do this all out of our own pocket. I got hurt 20 years ago when I was in service. I shattered my wrist, my hip, my hand, my nose, part of my face. And me and my wife are very fortunate, very lucky. So we decided to give back to a lot of the other veterans. So it's a project that's near and dear to our heart. And we just, we spoke with a lot of other beekeepers in the area, and none of them were, said, hey, you have to do these through the town. And when we started looking into it, we knew that there's a bunch of regulations, and we just want to do everything step by step in the right way. So, I spoke deeply with Miss Moss. She's been extremely helpful, making sure that we do all the paperwork correctly and making sure that we get everything done the right way. So I don't think we're doing anything wrong. We're just waiting for the green light.
So to sort of supplement upon what Mr. Is it Pelletier?
Perfect. Yes.
Pelletier. I'm always trying to give it the more Italian expression, but Pelletier sounds very Americanized and easily done. So because there's no construction, there's no new structure, there's the beehives, they're technically structures because they're enclosed, but they're hung. They're not even on a pole or anything.
Only in the wetland areas where, like,
Right.
We have a bunch of wetland areas, and through the DC, they said they're encouraged. The best thriving beehives are in wetlands because there's moisture. They never run out of the moisture, but you can't put them on the ground. So we actually have to figure out, it's pretty actually entertaining of how we're figuring out of how to put cables across and hanging the actual structures or attaching them and mounting them to trees. It's giving guys work. That's basically what I'm doing. And we would like to go through the agricultural route of making it, where it does make money. Me and my wife pay the guys who come and do work and whatnot, and to do the things. It gives guys, a purpose, some of them. And this here it's another avenue to help keep them going. A lot of guys, I mean, you laugh. I was mentioning to Ted, we have one guy who has one leg and we put him up the ladder. He's the guy who does all our ladder work. We have, but he's probably listening right now, and it's a good project, and we would like to do the agricultural. The more we looked into it, the agricultural, we'd like to file for the agricultural, but we have to do, there's a whole process that has to go with that. Right now, we'd like to get the animal husbandry and the the farm usage approved, I guess. Whatever you guys say I need.
That's what you're looking for. That's what you're looking for here tonight, for us to approve both the agricultural and the animal husbandry. Correct. What I was going to say is that because there's no structures, because there's no increase in stormwater, there's nothing new going in there. There's going to be like a basic small fence for where the corral would be.
Correct.
But the horses are already periodically brought in and out there because that's as of right. It's just a matter of getting the structure there. So we did not collect escrow for any of our consultants. I hear him when to say that I had volunteered to write the resolutions. I will write the next resolution, but because, as most people know, I had a bad case of COVID the last week. Ms. Whitman did this one for us, and she did an excellent job. Thank you, Cynthia. I also had Tad's help in it. They both analyzed it, reviewed it, et cetera, and then sent it to me, and I gave it a quick spin. But at any rate, we are prepared to take action tonight. So let me first, since we don't have any consultants on this, except for maybe Tad, who's quasi-consultant. Ms. Moss, do you want to add any comments?
She can't talk. Hold on. Try again.
There it goes. Okay. I don't really have any comments. Where are we in what we're doing? We're just classifying, right?
Classifying, we're going to set the public hearing tonight for 2 weeks.
Okay.
And here, and I'm going to just point out to everybody, we don't know yet how we'll be meeting in 2 weeks. It could be that we are meeting via Zoom. It could also mean that we're meeting in person. The reason we don't know that yet is because the state has, I believe that they took the legislature took the ability for the governor to enact these emergency legislation away. It's now included, I think it's now the Assembly and the State Senate. And the last time that this was acted upon was the day before it was going to expire. So if this gets acted on the 14th, that's when we'll know, and I apologize. But at any rate, we're prepared to take those actions tonight, Tad.
And the other thing I wanted to make sure that everybody knew is that the activity for the horses and the bees is not within 250 feet of a residence on an adjoining property. So those animal husbandry regulations that we do for, all of the home chickens is not an issue on this parcel because it is so large.
Thank you. Let me start with I'll call on each one of you. Ms. Dexter, any comments?
I guess I have two comments. One, this is a fantastic use. Very creative. And I love the whole bee idea because I do believe that they're endangered and anything we can do. So maybe I have more than two questions. One is there any plans to accentuate or plant more florals or things that the bees, does that go with it?
Well, one thing that I heard, I'm mostly all forest out there. And through our research, we found out that sugar maples, I think they're called, are better, are more producers, are better for the bees than actual wildflowers.
Oh, really?
Because of all the extra. Yeah, I mean, I can't take credit for it. I have a couple of veterans who, when I tell you they researched, they started pulling in everything. And, it's actually beneficial. But on the other side of the other property, we're not putting any hives near any houses. I'm surrounded by Mr. Athanas's farm, the solar panels. There's all wildflowers in there. We have all vacant and rural lands. So I mean, it's just basically all woods. So we're hoping that the sugar maples are, and then I mean we put it where we have it in a bunch of spots where we can rotate and see what works best. So I mean, We'll see. I mean, we're throwing it up, so.
Understood. Those the beehives? There were beehives on Mr. Athanas's property at the bottom of that hill, going up to the solar array. Are those?
I don't think so. I think those were all just storage bins for some of the stuff. I'm not sure. You know what? I know him to be a very nice guy. He's my neighbor. I mean,
Yep.
I know
Yep.
I think the guy John on there is my
I think
neighbor.
there were active beehives, though. When we did the site walk, we saw the beehives. So we already know that area
Oh,
apparently
wonderful.
is good for them.
Yeah, and I mean, if anybody needs it, his farms need it. So I mean, it kind of works out, as pollinators for everybody. So.
Yep. So then my only other question is where the corral is that right on the other side of the Statsburg Rod and Gun Club?
No, that's near the Crum Elbow.
Sorry.
Yeah, the Crum Elbow Gun Club.
Right.
So,
Dumb question, I guess. Do you ever have stray bullets coming into your property?
all the time. All the time. I have pellets that come raining down on us.
Oh, okay.
Where it comes and hits, and we're actually going into litigation sooner than I'm really not. We're going to court.
No problem.
Okay.
But when I saw the proximity, I guess the thing I was wondering, regardless of what you're doing legally or not, is I'm just wondering if like right around the corral, if maybe like
that's
putting a berm or something.
Well,
like
that's their responsibility, but it's on a hill. So I'm at the top of a hill on the side of their one firing range. Their one firing range, I don't seem to have any problems with. I know that they've had issues with other neighbors where slugs actually went through siding of houses, but my house isn't that side. Mine is on the other side of their skeet range where they shoot up in the air and it just comes raining down. So that's a whole nother legal battle that on its own has nothing to do with this. So,
Okay.
but I mean,
I was just like, I don't
Yeah.
really know that that particular property or how it operates. So I just noted that it's like right on the back side of it. But like, again,
no,
it sounds like
the horse corral should be, I mean, anything can happen when, if somebody, I mean, it's a lot of unmonitored shooting there. So anything can happen while it's there. But when we're there, the horses are brought in and that's just going to be a resting area there. So, I mean, it's basically somewhere to put the horses off where, the veterans can feed them, the veterans can brush them, they can bring them water. There could be a watering tanks there and whatnot. But, they're not going to be housed there overnight and whatnot. So.
Gotcha. Okay, great. Then
If they're shooting, I'm moving the horses. Let's put it that way.
right, and when they're shooting. So
yeah, you can't miss it.
Okay, great. Mr. Chairman, those are all my questions.
Thank you. And let me go to another board member, Ms. Weiser.
I have no questions or comments. I think it's a great use and thank you very much. I think it's wonderful and loving what you're doing.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Gercio, can I put you on the line and see if you have any comments?
Well, I want to point out that Chris is a neighbor of mine. I've met Chris and he's a good guy. And the project seems like a great project. So.
Thank you for saying that.
So.
Thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Oliver?
I think it's a very cool concept and it's always great to hear people, doing things for our veterans and, giving back to the people who protect our freedoms. So thank you very much.
Well spoken as always, Chris. And Mr. Waters?
Yes, it's very noble, and I thank you for your service. And you're right about the trees; they get a darker honey, I believe.
That's I you know what? It's a new
amber.
world. But you know what?
Yeah.
When I start popping out some jars, I assure you, I'll drop some off to the town hall for you.
Well, thank you so much. It's great what you're doing.
Okay, and Ms. Wasser is back. She's been hopping off and on and looking frustrated as usual. Stephanie, if you have any comments, just unmute yourself and I'll be happy to entertain.
Sorry about that. I can't wait to get my new computer. So I just accidentally shut myself down on someone else's computer. No, I think it's a fabulous idea, and I'm very excited about it, and I look forward to you going forward.
Thank you very much. I hope you'll come out and come for a ride with us and maybe put a bee suit on.
Okay, so I'm here going to point out that board members, we are not allowed to receive gifts over $75 in value in a single year. I'm just teasing there, don't worry. But it is something I'm supposed to point out periodically. No more than $75 is a gift from any particular applicant in 1 year.
Okay.
At any rate, I have no additional comments. I thought that this would be viewed favorably by the board. It's nice to have a neighbor like John Curcio actually say, yes, good project, et cetera. So, but we're going to type the action tonight. Classified. There are no referrals because it's a type 2 action. There are no other permits being given by any other organization. So I believe that I assign this to Ms. Dexter. Sorry, Ann.
Don't be sorry, that's fine. Okay, so this is a resolution classifying the action as type 2 for the Disabled Veterans Bee Farm. Resolution number 2021-58. Whereas the applicant, Chris Pelletier, has submitted an application for site plan approval received on December 6, 2021 to establish an apiary and horse corral on property identified as 47 Morris Drive, tax grid number, blah, 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 in the Greenbelt District. And whereas, now therefore be it resolved that the planning board hereby, 1, classifies the project as type 2 action under seeker.
I'll second that, Chris Oliver.
Any further discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand and say aye. Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. And now may I get a motion to set the public hearing for January 19th.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that. Ann Dexter.
Thank you. All in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
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 Any nays or abstentions? That motion carries unanimously. Mr. Pelletier, we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thank you very much. And
We'll let you know in advance if it's going to be Zoom or in person, how to handle it, okay?
And thank you again to all, Ms. Whitman. Thank you very much for your patience with my paperwork. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Chris. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Take care. Thank you all.
The next item on the agenda is a vote for site plan approval for animal husbandry. This is for Jennifer Maestroni and her husband and children. Location is 9 Gary Drive. We held a public hearing at our last meeting, and we left it open for 10 days to receive additional comment. We did not. So unless anybody has any questions or comments, I'm going to introduce this resolution myself. This is resolution 2021-52A, resolution granting site plan approval for Maestroni Chicken Coop. Whereas, now therefore be it resolved, the planning board hereby approves the site plan and authorizes the chairperson or his authorized designee to sign the site plan after compliance with the following conditions. 1, payment of all fees in escrow. 2, revision of the site plan set to organize as a bound document or a single sheet with a space for the planning board stamp and the owner's stamp. In case anyone doesn't understand, that's because this was handled somewhat informally in terms of being an actual site plan, et cetera. So we just have to get something that is acceptable to, someone will need to mute. We need to make sure we have a site plan that I can sign as acceptable to Ms. Moss and Ms. Whitman. So we worded the second condition that way. Are there any other comments?
I'll
Is there
second
a
that,
second?
Chris Oliver.
Thank you, Chris. Any further discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand and signify by saying aye.
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 Any nays or abstentions? Jennifer, the motion carries unanimously. Congratulations. Good luck.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Good luck. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Have a good one.
Take care.
Next item on the agenda. Oh, of course. And Mr. Daly, I'm sorry you've been waiting so patiently. I forgot. You don't have to wait on these things. If Ms. Moss recommends a waiver, we pretty much follow her recommendation. Furthermore, had we had questions, we would have contacted you a while back.
Okay.
It's a lovely property. Congratulations. I knew the prior owner.
Thank you.
And I could say welcome to Hyde Park, but you've probably been here for a while. So at any rate, thanks for your patience tonight and staying with us. Do you have any comments you want to make to us?
No, we've been here since 2004. We actually had a house on Fuller Lane, and then we purchased this house about 5 years ago, and then I was doing some decorations and went through the roof, as you see on the lot there.
Sorry.
Now we have to make some changes. But hopefully it's
Gotcha.
okay.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Daly? I didn't think so. I believe this resolution will be introduced by Ms. Weiser.
Resolution number 2021-60, January 5th, 2022. Whereas a request for site plan waivers made to the Town of Hyde Park Planning Board by James Daly to replace an open porch with a flat roof to a peaked roof on the existing single-family home, and whereas, therefore be it resolved that the Town of Hyde Park Planning Board hereby waives site plan requirements for the proposed changes as described in the request for a waiver of site plan received by the Planning Department on December 14th, 2021.
Second, Stephanie Wasser.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
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 Any nays or abstentions? There being none, congratulations, Jim. And thanks for repairing your roof, et cetera. So we'll see you around town. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is a recommendation for the issuance of a sign permit. As you'll all notice, we already had this application before us. They decided to make another change. Ms. Weiser can actually probably explicate why exactly, because she went through it as wearing another hat. And
They changed their name to Nuvance Health from straight Nuvance. So it's really it's a branding exercise. It was something that came up at the Walkway Over the Hudson Starry Night gala this last year. So
in other words, the important thing is that it says health rather than just Nuvance Health, which I think is probably arguably something better for customers as well. And anybody just driving by in terms of branding purposes, you're right to associate it with what it actually offers, which is health services. Anyone have any questions or comments? Okay, we gave this one to Mr. Waters.
Yes, resolution 2021-61, resolution recommendation for issuance of sign permit pursuant to the town code section 108-24-3A 4D. Whereas be it resolved that the board hereby recommends the zoning administrator issue the sign permit for Nuvance Health and Springwood View based on the sign permit application submitted by Amber Smith for owner David Opstead.
I second that. Ann Weiser.
Any further discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand and signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. The next item will be a resolution to designate our planning board vice chairperson for the year 2020. I'm going to introduce this one too, because by tradition, I always get to, since it's enemy sticking together. This is resolution 22-A, January 5th, 2022. Now therefore be it resolved that Ann Dexter be designated the vice chairperson of the planning board, authorized to conduct meetings of the planning board and to sign final plats, site plans, and related documents, including invoices and correspondence on behalf of the planning board in the absence of the chairperson. May I get a unanimous second?
Second.
I thought so. And may I get a vote? All in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Unanimously voted on. Thank you, Ann Dexter.
Thank you, Ann.
You're welcome.
And now for the pièce de résistance, we'll call it tonight. So there's been subsets of us, including various members of the town board, who have been seeing an application for a hotel project. This would be going where this planning board previously approved a hotel years back, more or less, not the exact same, but a general area. The applicants first met with us, well into COVID, but during our hiatus when we were all safely vaccinated, et cetera, because we got to meet in person. But they also were advised to do lots of exploring in terms of looking for archaeological sensitive sites. They've discovered various ones around. Those of us who are on the board with the last hotel will recall that actually drove design changes because of where the location were. This has also caused some changes as well inside this. Of particular interest inside this application is that while this is a hotel, somewhat similar to what Pierre Gagne proposed years ago, this will have attached residential villas to it. These are not year-round residences. These are residences you can rent for extended stay periods, but they will be owned by individuals and managed by the hotel. That's the sort of summarized way of speaking about it. Mr. Zarin can explicate further. But at any rate, this will also, in other words, have detached housing or residential areas that will be rented out as well, so that you can have a different experience. It's one thing to stay in the hotel. It's another to, say, rent a small villa, have all the housekeeping services, et cetera, but to be able to stay off separately and even have small kitchen, demonstration kitchen areas, things like that. So let me turn this over to Mr. Zarin and team. Michael, welcome. Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year to everybody, and good evening. And sorry, I warned our team. I said this could go on. We could get on like 8 o'clock or later. I forgot I'm for the Hyde Park. So kudos to the way you do business, and forgive my background, but it's become my remote brand. My bunk beds. I share with my grandkids. This is what it's come down to.
We've actually seen that before. It's okay.
Okay. I still haven't gotten to the top bunk. I mean, trying to work my way up. So we're here tonight, as Michael said, to resume our application on behalf of NR International. Here with the team, the NR International team, including Brent Reynolds, the principal, who will speak briefly tonight, and Chase and Crystal Peen, and the Gensler team, Michael Gotti and Val Liu, and my colleague, Kate Roberts. So we're probably know, as Michael said, the original project that we had come before you for a pre-submission a while ago was put on pause for the pandemic. I guess like a lot of the hospitality industry around the world. But during this period, NRI has been working with and is now in partnership with Starwood New Hospitality, who will be the hotel flag and branding entity for the project. They've also modified the project some that you'll hear more tonight in coordination with consultation with the Culinary Institute. We've essentially reduced some of the rooms, keys in the hotel, and we've added, I think what you'll find pretty exciting, and Michael alluded to, these new residential villas that will be for sale, as well as go into a rental pool program. And we have renderings alike of those that you'll see, and we'll go through the site plan. We, as Michael also alluded to, we've done some additional investigation and analysis that you'll hear about. And for all practical purposes, the west part of the project, the hotel and the Villas Hotel have not changed that program. The hotel's been slightly reduced, as I mentioned, but you still have the restaurants and the event barns and the spa. And we've maintained, as well as expanded, the trail system and the whole outdoor experience. So I think you'll find that, attractive and exciting. We now have ground leases going for CIA from 7 acres to approximately 21 acres, and we're still working on that. And NRI will continue to furnish, equip, own the hotel, and serve as the chief sponsor for the residential villas and the like. So we hope to get some of your input tonight through this pre-submission and feedback, as well as answer any questions that you might have. And then we can start or finish preparing the complete formal application with the new components and the like. So at this point, why don't I just turn it over to Brent for some brief comments, and then he will turn it over to Gensler, Michael Gotti and Gensler, walk you through a brief PowerPoint that maybe some of you have already seen when we delivered it. And then, please interrupt us and we'll answer any questions at any time. So,
no interruption. As you know, I call on each person, no interruption. We're going to do this in an organized fashion. Don't worry.
I forgot. So we should be done in about 10 minutes, probably.
No, longer than that. Sorry.
So go ahead.
Michael, thank you for the introduction, and look forward to getting back up there to present this in person. I think the absence of time has allowed us to improve the project and apply a more thoughtful approach to the natural topography, the natural setting that existed there, which really drove us revisiting the product type that we wanted to present and intend to build. In addition to that, over this period of time, allowed us to really dive into what we believe to be a stable trend in the consumer experience and appeal to that. So that time has allowed us to transform the product from a more hotel, single building centric type product to a more villa, sprawled out, and really pushing that consumer experience out into the setting that surrounds and is really the best attribute of the project. So for us, we've used this time to come up with what we believe to be a better product that I think is going to be more sustainable and better received from the consumer experience up there. So we're excited by it. I think what we've done over the period of time is we've previewed some of our ideas and directionally presented them. But tonight, Michael will walk you through the actual site plan, the updates, and as Michael Zarin said, we look for some feedback. And our intent is to leave this meeting and continue forward with the process in an efficient manner so we can come back formally to the board and work towards approvals.
Michael?
Thank you.
Michael, I think if you can share your screen, that would be the best way to start the presentation.
He's asking to be unmuted.
Is that the news?
There we go. Is that the official code for unmute me? I think that's it.
I thought that was the code from Happy Talk.
Oh, that's it.
Me
Yeah, thank
too.
you. Thank you. Hey, hello, Michael Dupree. It's nice. There are 3 Michaels on the phone, so I'll say last names, but nice to see you guys again. Appreciate the opportunity to represent this. This is such an exciting project for us. It's close to home. We have a lot of people from our office who actually live up in this area, and everybody's super excited to get moving on this. So we'll run through this. Val and I are going to kind of go through it together and just hit some of the major points. I'm going to reiterate some of the things that Michael and Brent just said. But this is our cover sheet. We can move on, show you a little bit about what we're going to show you today. There's a site plan. Okay. All right. Jump ahead. All right. Good. Good. So what you see here is an overview of the entire CIA campus, along with the proposed hotel and villa development that we're here to review with you this evening. Again, as Brent said, the goal tonight is to solicit your feedback so that we can tighten this up before we officially submit for the planning board approvals. But what you can see here is the overall plan, including the CIA campus here to the south, along with the delineation of the entrances along Route 9. We had many conversations about that, so you can kind of see all the way on the south, Val, thank you, with the cursor. The entrance to the Culinary Institute is on the left-hand side of the plan here. You move all the way up to the St. Andrews intersection. That's where we're proposing the entrance to this development. There will be a pedestrian access through the CIA campus and I'll tell you a little bit about that in a second. I just wanted to point out, because it's really important for us, from the very beginning, it was important that we develop this site that works in concert with the natural terrain and works around the existing conditions to truly feel like this has been integrated into the surroundings and hasn't been, hasn't just infiltrated and taken over. We saw that as an important part of the success of this, and I know you guys have said that to us. In the subsequent slides of this presentation, we're going to show you how we've done that while respecting and protecting the natural elements of the site. This was important to us. Another thing I want to point out, another one of the ways we did this, and Michael Zarin alluded to it, was we wanted to connect the existing walking and hiking trails to the site. I'll tell you, I've now walked the site a number of times. I've ruined a few pairs of shoes. It'd be nice to have some cut walking trails through here to truly experience the incredible views and the things that are part of this site. And one of the reasons why we think this is just an incredible opportunity. From the south, it's our intention to link up with the walking trails from the CIA campus, create a series of hiking trails you see in the orange line. They'll branch off and go through our development near the hotel, and then back down and reconnect with the FDR hiking trail. And you see another line on the plan east, or the lower part of the plan here, where it will work its way through the conservation easement area there as well. You'll also see a dotted line here that we're proposing a pedestrian or a biking path that's going to allow guests of the hotel and the villas to freely walk or ride to and from the campus. There's some links towards some events and things that are going to happen, and you'll see that those trails then extend all the way to our new entrance at the St. Andrews entranceway. So going to the next slide. This is an existing condition site plan. We thought, again, this would be important to show you this. We have, as Michael Dupree had mentioned, we were given some initial parameters, and we came out and we did even more studies. There are some pre-contact areas and some easements, and we wanted to make sure that we absolutely knew where they were so that we would avoid them. And you can kind of imagine, as you see this plan, it left us with some interesting areas to try to carve what we wanted to do out of this site without disturbing the areas that we don't want to disturb. We did a tremendous amount of due diligence. Our team on the line here with Chris Lapine and the Chazen team worked around the existing conditions of the site. We developed a plan that's going to respect all those existing easements, the pre-contact sites, the wetlands, et cetera. We also show here the property lines and some of the setbacks, and we've avoided, I'm going to say, 90% of those. So you'll see a couple of areas where we've made some accommodation that we'll be looking to present to you tonight. So next slide. This is our civil site plan. It's very much like the one that we showed you before, but I did want to make a note. You know, given all of the setbacks and the wetlands and the easements and the restrictions we're dealing with on the site, we feel very, very confident that we've created the least impactful layout from a site plan perspective. And this is the best design layout using the natural sites topography. We'll get into that a little bit more. We have a couple of sections and things that we'll want to show you. And we do want to point out that in working out the best plan around those parameters, we had to push 2.5 of the villas past one of the setback lines on the east side of the site. Thank you, Val. He's looking at that right now. You'll see that we've minimized that encroachment overall. And in a later slide, we're going to show you a section study that reveals that the natural topography actually shields the view from Route 9 and really is not as intrusive as it may be in another situation. But overall, we feel, and you can kind of see as it relates to that original plan I showed, that we've really had to manipulate our roads in here and make this work and put those villas just where in the only places they could be. So it's a very efficient plan that accommodates all those parameters that we were dealing with. Jumping down to the next slide. Let's see. Okay, so this is just a basic zoning information plan. It's really just for reference only. If we get into some things we want to talk about, we can go. This is straight from the codes. The next page. Hold on, I've got notes here. Okay, this is our program area table. As Michael Zarin had mentioned, we've reduced the number of keys to the hotel to about 105. Becomes more of a boutique style hotel. But we've added a series of villas to the plan east down there. Thank you, Val. There'll be different types of villas, some in a duplex configuration with some shared utilities, but for the most part, you can kind of get a sense of how we've laid out the site. You see an emergency vehicle entrance on Route 9 there that's not going to be used by the customers. It's really just emergency only for access to the site when needed. So jumping ahead, another page. This is a parking analysis that we've done. You know, it's helped us in doing this and studying the site. Again, we didn't want to do too much in paving open areas and such. So we we developed a shared parking plan based on our experience working on similar projects like this. It's important to note we work together with consultants who have extensive experience in projects like this. They understand the business and how it works and how people are going to use the hotel and the barn and all the different amenities that we're planning for this. And we've done a comprehensive analysis that takes into account how people are going to use the facility and determine the peak needs at specific times. So this page is just kind of showing you what we were thinking in our calculations for the parking. Jumping down another page to our technical site plan. We could expound on this a little bit with the help of Chris, but you know, I just want to mention here, we've done some initial engineering studies and like water, gas, electric, and telecommunications will be a direct connection from Route 9. We'll connect via pump station to the existing CIA campus. There's existing capacity in place already that's going to allow this project to connect to the campus's on-site sewer system. We are aware that due to the work we're proposing here, this project will be subject to a stormwater pollution prevention plan, that'll be developed as we dive deeper into the overall engineering of the site. And then just to wrap up this deck, I think we just kind of show a little bit of the journey that you'll take as you enter the site. So here's an aerial shot of St. Andrews Lane, and as it crosses Route 9, that's going to be the intersection where we will enter our site. You can see how dense the site is. It's like a broccoli, and we intend to keep that as is and carve our development into it, not disturb it, but make it feel like it's part of it. Next one shows your approach to this intersection from the south and from the north, and then another detail of the intersection itself. Next one, monumental sign right on Route 9. This would be near our guard station, which you'll see in a subsequent plan here. The next one really, I think, does the site plan justice. This feels the way we intend it to feel. Again, that it's a development that's carved out of the nature and not placed, not necessarily disturbing it. You know, one thing we want to make sure we express tonight that none of these elements are set in stone. To reiterate, you know, our goal this evening is to introduce the project to some of you who haven't seen it, and to show the rest of you where it is today. We want to elicit your feedback so we're better prepared for success down the road. Just to hit some of the points here, you see the guardhouse, as I alluded to, at the St. Andrews intersection. That goes past a proposed remote parking area for events as needed. As you make your way down, you see the first set of villas. I gotta zoom in because my eyes are not that great. We're proposing fire pits in the back of each one of those villas, and we'll show you a rendering of our vision for that now. As you move your way up, we have farm stands. We have some tennis courts we want to plan over our parking area, our larger parking area adjacent to the hotel. We're thinking about a helipad for those that have access to that from Manhattan. We think that's something that might be needed. We're thinking of a goods market and a feature vegetable garden and greenhouses and herb edible gardens. Really, farm to table is a big part of our vision here. There's event lawns and flower gardens and orchards. For the larger events, we're proposing a detached barn slash event space, which we'll show you a quick rendering of as well. And then some event parking, again, as I had mentioned, note number 13 there in the bottom right. So to jump ahead, we've done a lot of studies and been working closely with Brent and his team about exactly what this is going to be. If you go to the next one, Val. Just some look and feel. I mean, what are we trying to do for our customers and for those that are going to be using this? You see the hot tub images. The views here are spectacular. If you haven't walked that site, I recommend it. It's pretty incredible. We want to take advantage of that. Where we do carve out areas, we want it to feel as if it was all part of the original terrain. So we're planning different types of events, and like I said, farm to table. So here you get a good sense of what we're imagining here. And I think there's only a couple more. Go to the next. You go to the next. Oh, this was a slide we felt was important to show you. You can kind of see in the upper right-hand corner. We're cutting a section through the hotel down to the water, and we want to point out that we're staying within the bounds of our building height restriction here, and you can kind of see how the hotel itself and the massing of the hotel is going to relate to the barn. And then to the steep slope as it works its way down to the water. It'll create some great views for the hotel guests and for the barn events and the villas that are along the water there. The next slide I had mentioned before, the 2.5 villas that encroach on that setback. We noticed quickly that the slope off of Route 9 is very, very steep as it works its way up. And just over that peak, we will be coming down and building those two closer villas. But you can see that from Route 9, there would be no view of anything but that berm that exists there today. The villa will not be able to be seen from Route 9, and that was very intentional. For us there in that area, and you kind of see the second level of villa past the road that we're going to be cutting in there. To give you a sense of what these villas are going to look like, and again, nothing's cast in stone, but this was our first iteration of what these can be. Very, very simple structure, but elegant and beautiful, and really about sharing with nature. You're going to see some very, very large open window spaces from the living room to make you feel like you are actually part of the outside. Private areas in the back of each one of these villas. And then I think our last image is of the barn, which is also going to be a big part of the experience here. To hold weddings and to hold larger events, we propose a structure, something like this. Again, a simple structure, but elegant and beautiful, we think. And then one more, I think, is just showing everybody the proximity to the FDR library and where the hotel will be located in relation to the Hudson River, and an aerial shot of that. So that's the package we've put together. I've done a lot of talking and waiting for any kind of feedback, any and all feedback. That's what tonight's about for us.
Thank you, Mr. Gaddy. When I say that, I'm grinning because that's the name of a famous pizza chain in Austin, Texas, where I'm from. Wow. That's why I wanted to say Mr. Gaddy in there at some point. At any rate, I didn't sort of gush and wax too enthusiastically when I was first introducing the project tonight. But I do want to point out that having seen various schematics for the interiors over the years, this project is nothing like any hotel that's within 50-mile radius. There is a lovely new hotel in Hudson. It's only got 12 rooms, so it's truly a boutique. It's probably not making any money. I know the owner, but it's not designed to make money. I'm not sure. But this will be something that will put Hyde Park on the map in a different way than what it has been all along. We're known for our history, our native beauty, our cultural and natural resources. However, we don't have a great place to stay at this point, because the hotel across from you has not gone up yet, has not gone vertical. So it's nice to contemplate something about this. I also want to point out that we did extensive secret when we did the first hotel analysis. The conservation easement that you saw that Mr. Gaddy had on one of the maps is actually held by Scenic Hudson. Included in that conservation easement, if memory serves, is they have to use natural materials. The colors have to be greens, browns, things like that. So there's already a requirement that this would blend into the environment and not try to stick out somehow nastily from if you're looking at it from the river or across the river. anything like that. We also discovered in the last analysis, we were doing looking at the hotel, that if you were at the FDR presidential home, stuck your head out of a second floor window and craned it down looking due south, you would see a bit of the hotel that was proposed back then. This has now changed. It's not quite as tall. It's broken down more. So I don't think there can be any impacts, but we will take a look at that as we move forward with our consultants. So let me start with first going to Ms. Franson. Bonnie, initial comments?
Some quick comments, and I'm not sure if you actually covered this and I missed it. When we had some initial meetings, I know you were working with Poughkeepsie to be able to hook into the sewer service there. Is there an agreement in principle? Has that been achieved?
Yes, we have a signed agreement with the town of Poughkeepsie to be part of their 4th district and allocation. And we've also met with the city of Poughkeepsie and just have to formalize any of the things, but we have conceptual agreement from them.
Thank you. Has there been any discussion about how the villas would be phased relative to the overall hotel structure? Sort of built all at once or phased?
Brent, do you want to take that? Is he unmuted? I don't know. Brent?
We're muted.
There you go.
Yep, now we can speak. Now we can speak. Sorry, we were muted somehow. Yeah, so the intent is to complete this as one project. As we go through the development phase, obviously the infrastructure is going to come in first, and we're going to focus on that hotel and build our way out. But this is not meant to be a phase project over multiple years. The intent is to come out and build this in one fell swoop.
Okay. Curious if you've had any conversations or meetings yet with DEC with regard to the Maricha Kill crossings, et cetera, wetlands. Do you have a good sense of, these are the limits of your wetlands and, what disturbances you'd be allowed?
Yes, and that's what's come through in the survey with Chazen and the setbacks, the easements that exist on the site, and also meeting with Scenic Hudson.
Yeah, Bonnie, we delineated the wetlands and are outside of all the regulated areas. So that's been a fundamental of the design.
Okay.
Delineated, but has DEC validated?
No, not yet, Victoria.
In terms of the actual layout and the villas, because you are, it appears to be locating some of the villas within sloping areas. I was just curious, you're showing an area of event parking to the north, and there's that other parcel that's owned by the CIA. I don't know if you looked at, and again, I'm relatively new to the town, so I'm not familiar with the prior proposal, what the intent was for that parcel and if any consideration was given to locating something there, or is it environmentally sensitive?
Are you talking about the parcel where the old convenience store is located?
Well, you have your event parking that comes, it says 85 stalls.
Yep.
That parcel in there, it's not programmed for anything right now, but is it planned to be programmed in the future, or did you look at that as part of the overall development?
So we did. We looked at that as a overall site planning, conceptual programming effort with the Culinary Institute. So as we develop our project that's proposed and you see on the screen today, we're not backing any potential future development into a corner. So we did look at it from a programming perspective. However, the agreement with the Culinary Institute as it stands today is the area that you see. So we are not involved in that, but we did look at it from a long-term planning perspective.
But Bonnie, to your point, the 85 parking stalls or that area will be part of our plan. So we'll have we'll have some type of control over that as an available parking area.
And that's event parking for the hotel, and then you'll have some kind of shuttle service, et cetera, to get over to whatever venues are being held at the hotel?
Correct. That mainly fills the requirement for the event park. When you have full hotel capacity and villa capacity, and you have a full barn event, then that overflow parking would handle that. And that's obviously, sporadic.
And then my last question has to do with, I think there was some conversation about the CIA and master planning. And does the CIA have a master plan overall for the site, and kind of how this fits in programmatically with any other kind of long-term concepts that they're contemplating?
Bonnie, I can answer that one. There is a CIA master plan that was reviewed by a prior planning board before I was appointed, so over 17 years ago. But that did not include this area.
Okay, thank you.
Hey guys, can I just ask, Chris Lapine and his group is muted. They've been trying to chime in, but they're unable to. If somebody can unmute the Chazen team.
They can unmute now.
Yeah.
Chris, can you unmute?
They're still muted, I think.
Try it now. It says that participants can unmute now.
There you go.
Thank you. Just wanted to chime in on one thing that was discussed about 5 minutes ago. This is some questions on the wetlands and the DEC validation of them. The on-site wetlands are Army Corps wetlands through the on-site biologist TES who conducted this site visit. With regards to the crossing of the Marici Hill, we have not engaged with the Army Corps or the DEC on that. Obviously, it would also, pedestrian crossing would involve crossing of a floodway and floodplain, so we'd have to work with your floodplain administrator as well.
Thank you. Those are my questions for now, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Sotero, comments?
Yeah, a couple. This is exciting. I'm glad to see that the hotel is moved a little bit away from the cliff. I think the last one was fairly close to the cliff, and kind of made me a little nervous, especially when they're going to get around, to blasting. So that's one thing that's positive. One of my questions was answered in terms of the sewage. I've already had discussions with the town of Poughkeepsie and the city, so that's good. There's a lot of studies still to be done. So the only thing that I will bring up, based upon my history in the town and projects on this site, is at one point there was some discussion about a connector road that would go from basically they're proposing a new entrance at the St. Andrews light. So once you come in and make that left, there was some talk at some point about also a spur road that would go to the right and would go behind the former Easy Street restaurant and the other plaza there, and would connect to the Stop and Shop Plaza. For those members of the board that were, which I think were most of you, when we approved the Stop and Shop, we did align the parking lot so that there could be a potential access point that I'm referring to. So I'm not saying that we definitely need that, but as we've had projects here in the past, that has been a subject of discussion, more so when, Easy Street was not owned by the Culinary as it is now. It was, vibrant at that point. The plaza was a little more vibrant. As many of us know, it's very, very difficult now to make a left-hand turn out of those plazas to go like north. So to, potentially have a road, behind that could be accessed right to, a traffic light would help the traffic flow in through that whole area. So that's just, there's going to be traffic studies that are going to be done here. And I just wanted to bring that up about that connector, like road. I know that brings, legal issues and, insurance and all that, but, we'll just go keep that in mind as we, go through the process. So I just wanted to bring that up.
So very quickly, because I think the applicants may not have heard this before, we did investigate this. There's an Albany Post Road corridor study that was adopted by DOT and the town about 18 years ago, 17, 16. It calls for the creation of to take basically what we're calling internal traffic, internal to the town, take it off Route 9. This would be one way to alleviate that. If you recall, Pete, one of the issues we had was that there's a sliver of land that goes all the way to Route 9 that's owned by the National Park Service.
Yeah.
That would have to be overcome as a hurdle.
Yep.
In addition, I believe that we discovered that some of the septic that belongs to the former Easy Street is actually off the parcel. It's on where that road would be. Although it's not insurmountable. And it may be that DOT, in negotiations with DOT about improving this intersection, that they may, I don't want to say require, but may have serious discussion about that. As long as you brought that up, I want to point out that in the prior approval, the Department of Transportation did require that the applicant pay for a new traffic signal, as well as a left turn only light to be able to go as you're going north on 9 to be able to take a left turn into the main entrance.
Yeah.
And when Mr. Gotti earlier was talking about the secondary entrance off Route 9, the original proposal for that first hotel only had that entrance, which DOT said no, because they didn't think it was a safe entrance being on the slope that it is. And the nature of hotel guests arriving may not have been there before, them to suddenly put on their brakes and go, oh, there's the entrance in the middle of that steep slope, so like a bad idea. But this is emergency only, then that's possible. I will also conclude on this little point by saying that if memory serves, DOT was actually offering $400,000 to the applicant at that time toward that intersection improvement, that left turn lane at the corner of St. Andrews and 9, in order for the other portion of that road to be constructed, because DOT has a definite interest, as you pointed out. It makes traffic flow easier if everyone who's trying to take a left or go north could actually go to a light like we have at Stop and Shop right now. So those are all good points, Pete. Thank you. Anything else?
No, that's it at this point. Thank you.
Ms. Moss, any comments?
I'm glad that Mr. Sotero brought up that back alley access. I think that's been on the table for a long time, and it has been something that the town has been seeking because of the safety concerns, I believe, for the access to the beverage discount plaza. The other couple of things that I see are the variances that are going to be required. I think they're, in addition to just the variance for the setback, those 3 villas along Route 9 are also created through carving out a steep slope. We are required to respect steep slopes. So, I'm not sure if there's any wiggle room to scooch anything to get them at least a little bit, at least the one. Well, both of them are entirely in that 150-foot setback. So we're going to need variances for those. Along the north property line, I don't think you referenced a variance needed for the parking structure and the tennis courts. So that's looking like a structure to me. We can talk about that offline and see if there's something else that we can do to I don't know I don't know that you can move it. But we can talk some more about the construction of it. The other thing that I didn't see is the 100-foot stream corridor designation, all the way down to Class D streams on the site. So that puts some of the other structures as needing variances as well. Also on page 16 with the cross section of the villas backed up against Route 9. There you go. What is the horizontal and the vertical scale of the cross section? I was having a hard time making sense of the dimensions and the heights.
Sure. So this is Val with Gensler. What we are showing currently here in the villas, we're showing a floor to floor of 10 feet, achieving a 9-foot ceiling height. And then we're indicating here sort of the ridge line of the roof, reason why it's showing here at 5 foot. But as you could see in the renderings, it slopes to either end, so it goes to a lower elevation from that point on.
And so the horizontal scale of the building and the grade is it 1-to-1? Is it?
I see. This is something that we have to still work through in terms of looking at very closely with the grading. What we're indicating here is we wanted to show the setting of the villa such that it clears the sightline from Route 9. That was
Okay.
our primary goal at this very preliminary stage.
Okay, because there's a 40-foot drop from the top of that rise at Route 9 down to the access drive. So I was trying to figure out, well, how tall is that? How tall is that unit? How much space is there behind it to create the terraces for a little bit of landscaping?
Yeah.
And it just seemed like the building was a little far away from the cut in the rock. So I was trying to figure out, what the distances were. Let's see. I think somebody also had mentioned that you're accessing maybe water and gas from Route 9. Did I hear that today?
Yes.
Yeah, Chris.
Is
Yes.
that
Samantha?
so? You're going to access Dutchess County Water and Wastewater line along Route 9?
Yes, similar to the last proposal.
Okay. And then I guess the only other thing that I'm looking at is the guardhouse, and the parking is on a separate parcel. Guardhouse and parking are not principal permitted uses. So I'm trying to figure out a way to work through that. I'm sure the CIA is not going to want you to subdivide. So I'm not sure whether that's going to have to be a variance of some kind. But that's something we need to talk about or think about longer term.
As you're talking about the guardhouse, it sits somewhere right around where number 1 is. When it says guardhouse and signs, but they don't show the structure, correct?
Yes. And
They
the
showed
sign
that on
has to
another-
be, go ahead. The sign has to be on the same parcel as the hotel. Or it's going to need a variance. So,
We never got that far in the last proposal, but we had
No.
the same discussion about the sign location as well.
Right.
Okay. Thank you. Ms. Polidoro, comments?
I have a few. I do think that the CIA is going to have to update the master plan to show this. The code, does say that in this St. Andrews district, there should be a master plan updated for about 5 years, every 5 years, which shows the general proposal. So, whether this is an amendment to the existing master plan with its own section, we can discuss how that's done, but it's something we should keep in mind. Along with Tad's questions on the uses, a helipad is something that I'm not sure we've discussed before within the town. And, we should talk with Tad about whether or not that would be a permitted accessory use in the district. One of the things I saw, did the villas have individual pools?
Do.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I mean, this is a little comment, but I think the code is going to require fences around all the pools. And if it's a hotel, you might even have to make them ADA accessible. So you may want to start having conversations with the building inspector about whether you could do one fence, one big fence, or I don't know if fences are going to throw off your aesthetic. And the ADA thing is expensive. The maximum building height is 60 feet, but I thought I saw on one of your pages it was over 100 feet tall. Was I reading that?
59, I believe.
It was plus 140. That's the grade.
You're right. If you look at this
I
line
see.
item here,
Okay.
what we did is average grade, and from that point measured, it's 59. So we're 1 foot below the overall height limit.
Okay, I was looking at the bold numbers, so that's fine. Again, I had the same questions about the event parking on that lot. We went over the alleyway and the lodging uses and the villas. I guess we just need clarification still whether we're considering that a residential use or a lodging use and how exactly that's going to work. And hiking, last question is hiking trails. Are those going to be open to the public, and are you proposing to grant easements for those, or are those limited to hotel guests?
The overall structure of the trail system is, we're still working through that with the Culinary Institute and how that would tie through this proposed property and onto their campus. So I don't have an answer for that at this juncture. Relative to the villas, we're still classifying them as a transient use because they'll be in a rental program and be required to be rented out in conjunction with the hotel.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, then let me start with board members, and let me encourage board members to be as free in your discussion as you can. If there are any points that you see or roadblocks or any issues, please state them now. Do not worry about somehow the applicant's thinking that you're being mean to the project. That's not the purpose of this meeting. I think we all are excited by the project, but rather than get down 6 months from the line and say, oh, wait, what about this? We want to front load as much as we can to help this project proceed more smoothly. So let me start with our vice chair, Ms. Dexter.
So my first thought is that this is a big improvement over the previously approved one, which kind of pushed the boundary on some things that just didn't quite fit. This is definitely just sounds, I don't know, sounds like a place I'd like to go to. I remember, I think one of the advantages from having had a previous application on this property is we did a lot of exploring on it. We did identify a lot of the areas that you're already now staying away from. And I think that's a huge advantage. The heliport is a new one. I'm like, that's interesting. I would love to see how that kind of fleshes out as far as our code goes. And, you know, I don't know, maybe there'll be a trend, who knows? But overall, you know, I still remember walking that site. I remember how that roadway that goes from St. Andrews down where there's now villas, how it is behind a ridge. So I do remember all that. At that point, they were not really, there was nothing there. It was just an access road. So I like the layout. You know, this is an exciting project. And again, we worked through so many issues with the last one. And you know, right off the bat, you know, Michael, you did a great job of like identifying, you know, a lot of the work that had already been done. And, you know, we already know that you can't really see this from the historic sites. And we know that the DOT wanted a whole lot of things. So I think we're already armed with a lot of, you know, we already know what kind of the touch points are going to be. So this looks great. I do, you know, talking about that back access, you know, ideally you'd want to have, yes, behind that little mini, that mini lot just to the north, connect to, the Stop and Shop that's there. But even just to start by connecting that little lot to any access to a lighted traffic signal would be fantastic. And, something that I would love to see, because that should be a lot easier to do than crossing that National Park Service land. And there was like a gorge in there too, I think. So,
Right.
those were very challenging. And, but just that one little plaza to the north would, a lot of your locals would probably really like that. But yes, very exciting. This is, the amount of great projects here in Hyde Park is just makes me smile.
Thank you, Ann. I agree. Ms. Weiser, comments?
No, I agree with Ms. Dexter. I think it's very, very exciting. And if the hotel is going to resemble the what we saw in the 2019 pre-submission, it's going to be stunning. It was, to your point, Ann, it's someplace I'd love to stay. My questions were about the event parking being too far away. What were your plans for the wastewater treatment plant? So that's all done. Will the villas have their own individual parking spaces that are adjacent to each building?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, they will.
Okay, that was it. I think that's it for now. The helipad, I'm not so sure. It's a great idea for the area, having had a house on the North Fork for 8 years. I can tell you, it's a trend I would not want to come see in the Hudson Valley. But again, this personal experience. So other than that, I'm just looking forward to seeing this as it develops. Thank you.
Thank you, Ann. Mr. Waters?
Yeah, I think between what the consultants' questions were and my colleagues, everything that I had listed has been talked about and discussed. So it is a very ambitious project, beautiful. I think it could be gorgeous, bringing nature to the villas and stuff. It's unlike anything I've seen in this area. And it will complement what's happening across the road too, to some in some regards. So I think that the heliport, when I saw that, I said, is that for emergency uses or something? But in general, I just, it's interesting that it's there. I don't know what, having helicopters flying overhead and on the Hudson and with eagles and birds and things like that, what that will do. But in general, I think the plan is laid out nice. It's hidden, so it's not viewed from Route 9. You might see a little bit of a roof or something, but that would add interest into what's happening in there. The signage was nice. Location of the sign, I didn't, realize I guess that's a separate parcel or something. So that I didn't know. Was there talk about shops being in could somebody clarify that, like stores or I guess.
There's a goods market listed. If you see number 5, there's a goods market.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. So, I mean, it has all, it's like its own little city, but natural, to the environment. So it looks nice. It looks, what that'll be viewed from the river, I don't know, but I'm sure the pre-designed the villas and stuff and the hotel. I haven't seen the hotel. That was one of my things, but somebody says they have a previous sketch of what that might look like or something. I'd like to see that. But in general, it's very nice, beautiful.
Thank you, Rob. As part of, when they make the formal application, the initial real application, this is a pre-application meeting. And to be honest with you, the parking analysis they provided, a lot of stuff they provided is actually go beyond what we normally see for a pre-app meeting. But they're required to show utilities, easements, architectural elevations, landscaping, lighting, benches, whatever else. All that has to be shown when they make the formal application. So this was just a way to jumpstart. But I think they're hearing, I would guess they're hearing what they want to hear, which are so far complimentary things being stated by the board. Ms. Wasser, comments?
Yes, thanks. Yeah, it's an exciting project. I'm happy to see it. It looks like you're going to need a number of variances, just going through the materials on your parking and lot depth and a few other things that I saw. So I hope you're prepared for the ZBA. I would like to see, I think Tad touched on this briefly, some more specifics when you, on the heights of the 2.5 villas that are sitting in that 150-foot buffer. To really feel comfortable that, you know, it's only 66 feet in from Route 9. So we just went through this with Bellafield across the street in terms of leaving everything fully protected and natural and in the 150-foot buffer. So that's come up a few times, but I like to reiterate it so you have a sense of how many of us are talking about that. I will be a little more direct about the helipad. Not a fan for reasons that everyone has mentioned. We do have some airports in the area that are really not that far away. And the variance screening, the screening for the event parking, landscaping screening for that larger section of parking down there, number 13. Would like to see, you know, there are trees in front of there right now, but I just don't know, I have a sense of, when you get into details, that's just something I'd like to see. And I just had a question, view from across the river on the hotel. And I'm just curious about the business structure of the villas. It's owned by the hotel. Are there time limits? Are they time shares? Are there time limits in terms of what you're envisioning for how long people can rent them? Do you ever see this being metered separately and sold off? It's really not a site plan question, but I am curious about it.
They're independently owned, but they're part of the rental program. So the restriction on that is those owners have to incorporate them and have them participate in the rental program run by the hotel for a certain number of days a year.
Okay. Like a Marriott vacation program or something like that.
That's a comparable example, yes.
Okay, great. That's it. It's exciting. Let's see where it goes.
Thank you, Stephanie. Mr. Oliver?
Thank you. I think this is a very exciting project, and you know, it's really nice in that space, you know, playing on the nature and the beauty along the Hudson. I know the topography in that area is pretty difficult to work with, and I think you did it well. The only concern the only concerns I kind of see is with the parking. I'd like to kind of see it more compact or located near the hotel, just because I get the idea that, you know, you're kind of trying to sprawl through the topography, and it makes sense, but then you have these expanses of parking. Maybe you could break up the parking and kind of sprawl it throughout the site like you did, or kind of make it a little bit more compact towards the hotel. I think it's 13, that overflow parking right by the entrance. I don't know if that's the best site for it. I get you're probably constrained by the topography, but being the gateway to this area here, you know, it might be better placed or hidden throughout the site, or like I said, kind of break it up in sections where if you're going to have a shuttle bus anyway, you could break it up and sprawl it throughout the whole site. And I'm also in support of adding that connector road, as I think it would really help the traffic issues along Route 9. Thank you.
Succinct and well done as always, Chris. Thank you. And Mr. Gercio, do you want to add any comments tonight?
Well, to me, it looks like a low impact project on the environment already. In the Adirondacks, because I know people that have built homes in the Adirondacks. I mean, if you look at their model and how they build the homes and how they're able to protect the environment, and it can be done on inclines, and I think it would be better to do something like this than to put a more conventional hotel project in place here. The only thing that I would like to see is to incorporate, and this may be out of my purview, but I'm very curious about the sewer, okay? And I would like to see where that sewer pumping station is going to go to bring the sewer here. And if we could incorporate that into our plan as a town to get sewer closer to town in the process. And, I would also like to see what the Culinary's intention is with the old Easy Street restaurant. And see somehow if we could get an overview plan of how that areas could be improved in this process, because this is a large project. And the CIA's got to have some sort of plan they're obviously having discussions here, so there's got to be some sort of thought process there, or something kicking around. And as far as the helipad, I mean, I just know people complain about noise, and you might be able to get away with it if you restrict the times and usages of it, if it's allowed in that type of zoning. So, but I love the project. Low impact. So, in my opinion.
Thank you, John. We did have, when we had our most recent offline meeting, we did sort of discuss with the applicants the idea about what they wanted to do with the old Coco's building, because let's be candid here, it's not a very attractive entrance to what's going to be a very glamorous site once you get into it.
Yep.
To be on your right, because it's a building that's suffered from some desuetude. No one's really looked at it for a while. It got some improvements initially, but nothing more. So that is always of interest in through there. And let me add my comments. So first, it involves also that huge number 13 parking area.
Yep.
Gentlemen, under 108-4.5 B2 E and J, E is the total impervious, it's D. Parking shall not dominate any site when viewed from the street, providing frontage for such suit. Large uninterrupted parking areas of parking stalls will reduce the continuity, blah, 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 are not allowed. Off-street parking should be developed as a network of small, less than 12,000 square feet parking spaces. Number 13 is bigger than 12,000 square feet. So tying into what Chris said, either you need to reduce that, relocate some of the parking, or you're going to need to ask for, I would guess, a variance, because it's literally anything over 12,000 square feet is not allowed. You're proposing something bigger there. The other issue for all your parking areas is under J. Any off-street parking for 17 or more vehicles shall provide curbed planting islands or beds within the parking area equal in total area to 15% of the total square footage of all stalls and aisles. I know that number 13, I believe the other site are also planned to be gravel rather than paved and striped, but you still need to put some landscaping in there. My colleagues have to hear me beat this dead horse all the time, but as a former Southerner, I don't like parking in areas where I can't get some shade. You come back to it, you're hot as hell, and I don't know why anybody would want to do that. So that's the two things, that's sort of those two things there. The next question I'm talking to Southerners right now. The next, the next question would be how you actually are going to control the southern entrance and exit to being for emergency purposes only. I didn't see a gate or anything else there. So I just want you to clarify that as well. Again, I pointed out that the conservation easement that Scenic Hudson holds is 100 feet all along the front of the property there, or the west side of the property. I think it'd be interesting if we could get some clarification from Scenic Hudson as to whether or not they're going to let you kind of selectively limb some of the trees, because I walked that site a zillion times along with Ms. Dexter when this was proposed the first time. And there's a lot of trees there that will include you having a nice view of the river. So I just am curious you're selling this. I want this project to succeed, and you're selling this as something that you'll have these magnificent views, these vistas. But if Scenic Hudson won't let you limb up anything, then you're stuck with having what the realtors locally here call seasonal views of the river, which basically means during the winter, when it's not as much fun to get around, go outside, walk, explore nature in of itself. So I'm just asking for some clarification there if you've had any discussions with Scenic Hudson thus far. The parking areas, as I said, both this one and that central one along the spine I think that's lower than 12,000 square feet if I did it correctly, scaled it, but it still needs to have areas where you would have landscaping. That brings me up again to the DOT issue, which we've already kind of addressed, but that you should start discussing this with Department of Transportation as soon as possible. I also am in very much favor of having a road that would parallel Route 9 that would, again, allow you to take a right. I don't know how far it would go. I'm not even sure that that's inappropriate for this time with the project. It may be something that's better thought of when the CIA comes forward, what they're going to do with the former Coco's restaurant, but that is something that's critical there. I also heard several times individuals saying that they were not in favor of the helipad. I'm going to look to Victoria and Mr. Zarin actually about how we would regulate that. Andre Balash, who's also a former hotel owner, I believe, he takes a helicopter from the city to his own private residence up in Statsburg. He's got a place to land his helicopter there. I know that there are restrictions from FAA. You can't use it, I believe, after dusk or at some point in the evening. There's a time limit after before, but as someone who lives on the river, I do see them periodically. And often when I'm by my pool, they'll come right over and make a little dip for something. So I'm pretty sure that's Mr. Balash when that happens. For what Mr. Gercio pointed out, the sewer, the CIA is a tenant to the sewer district that is owned wholly, I believe, by city and town of Poughkeepsie. There has been discussion at various times over the years about the town of Hyde Park trying to buy in. Last I heard, the city and the town both said there's not enough capacity. It'd be too expensive for us to try to build out capacity for them. But it's always a good point, I think, that's being made there. And I do agree, though, however, that the helipad would introduce more noise, particularly coming up as it would be over to hotel guests. And I think it was Ms. Wasser who said that there are other airports nearby. We actually have an airport here in Hyde Park. I know it's a shock, but we do have one. It's a very small one. It's located on North Quaker Lane. It'd be sort of at the opposite end of town from this, but that would be a possibility, I would imagine, to explore. In addition, we do have the Hudson Valley Regional Airport, home to a new DCC airline facility, Dutchess Community College. But more importantly, that is an area where you could fly into. It takes you about 20 minutes to get from that location over to this hotel site. So there are options to do that instead. Ms. Moss,
as well.
Kingston as well.
There's an airport that was recently purchased for.
Oh, they
these
sold
types of
it.
uses. Yeah, they sold it.
So I'm not sure what variance the parking deck with the tennis courts on top was being referred to by Ms. Moss, but we can explore that down the line. There is a section of code that talks about if you are if you're adjacent to a site, you have to provide at least 100 feet of open space between that parcel because it's got a historic registry structure on it, as well as, so I want to make sure that you have 100 feet between the back of the parking garage, the deck there, and that border with the National Park Service parcel. And that's really basically all I have except for, hold on. I think that we should define what the goods market is, what actually you're selling. As I said, it's kind of nebulous there just to say goods market. That could be anything from buying toothpaste and toothbrush that I forgot when I packed my stuff along with shampoo, or it could be local goods. It could be something from the CIA. I just think we'd like to see clarity on that. But these are all relatively minor issues. You will need, the reason why I brought up the specific code for the parking lots was that's something that you guys should consider because it will help design help drive your design. When Chris started talking about breaking them up, that's what I wanted to bring up to you. I do think it's an important component that Tad brought up about the houses in the 150-foot setback. There's no guarantee that you would be given those variances by the ZBA, primarily because it's enforced across the river and across Route 9, I'm sorry, for the project, and it's enforced all the way down as far as they can get in terms of structures rather than at least parking. So that's all I have.
Michael?
And- Yep. Yes,
May I
I
just
can't
add-
say when we share screen. Yes, Bonnie, sorry.
Hi, I was asking Tad this, but again, we're talking about parking. With regard to the event parking, it's on a separate parcel, and I don't know that we can have an accessory use without a principal use. So something that Tad will have to weigh in on too.
I'm sure that they could seek use variances for that if necessary. I believe that one of the reasons why the Culinary Institute has not collapsed the lines is, let me just go ahead and say, because of me. I talked to the Culinary when they first bought the old Coco's parcel and other ones a while back, saying before you merge the lot lines and make it all go off the tax rolls, you might want to do a joint venture at some point with some other organization to sell, let's say, CIA China, CIA branded jams and jellies, whatever. And they were like, oh, you're right. And I said, this would be a commercial area where you could actually create something like that to joint venture. So I believe they kept that, they kept this on the tax rolls as well as those parcel lines so that there might be some way for them to think more creatively down the line. But if it requires a subdivision, lot line alteration in order to create this, because that's going to be easier than a use variance to get, obviously, and that's something that we should discuss as well. Although that's mainly, I think, between the applicants and the Culinary Institute, because it creates an additional burden on them to have to apply for use variances. I'm not sure what burdens would place on the Culinary Institute if they were to seek re-subdivision and combining all the lots.
Well, I mean,
So,
there's also a lot line alteration option. I mean, there's room for creativity here.
We can just merge the lots, would not be a subdivision. So that would be an easy.
Nothing that we've discussed tonight is going to be impassable.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. We can get through everything here because one thing I want to point out, I heard my 6 colleagues say, wow, great project, exciting, over and over again. So that's the takeaway that I want to make sure that everyone walks away with, is that the town is looking at this very favorably because it is an exciting project. I mean, let's be honest, we don't have anything like this in the area. I'm thinking about Troutbeck, which is gorgeous, but it's more antique. It's also in a very remote corner of the county. And that's the most analogous thing I can think of. The new hotel that's in the Hudson is in the middle of an urban environment. And you're really, when you stay there, you're buying Lev's impeccable taste. This is the guy who started Fresh, beauty products and sold it to LVMH. But you're also looking to be inside Hudson. It's really like being in a city. So when you walk out, you're not going to be in nature. You're going to be in the hubbub of restaurants and bars and cafes, et cetera, antique stores. This is a very different experience to have because you're going to be not just communing with nature, but you'll also have the ability to walk down into the Culinary Institute, to walk to the restaurants there, et cetera. One thing that I didn't get into, it just sort of a little squiggle there for me, was when I looked closely, I can see that there's lots of sidewalks that would provide connectivity from the villas to go down into the main hotel. But there's not sidewalks everywhere. So the board will have to consider that because we do have a requirement that there should be walkways and sidewalks between all uses. That would argue that you should have it from the entrance of, say, Route 9 all the way back to the hotel. We'll think about that because there's got to be ways to reduce the expense of that so that you don't have to have paved sidewalks everywhere. Last but not least, Tad kind of stole my thunder. I thought I was going to be clever and say, I see splash pools. Those are going to need fences by state building code. But Tad got to that already. Having a pool and a big one, I learned that as part of that, and the architects will know this, part of your structure can count as long as it's controlled, part of your structure, your part of your house, your pool house, whatever, can count as part of the fence. But what I saw in the illustrative example there would not pass muster. And what was being stated about the ADA, I think probably the architects know that there's a mechanical contraption that has to be added so that someone who it would be in a wheelchair or any kind of other apparatus can be lowered into and out of it. There are other ways to get around that. I think it might be the size of the pool and whether I don't remember all of it, but I know they're not always required. There is a way to opt out of it. And again, that's really more for the architects to deal with the building department in and of itself. But otherwise, does this give you enough, Mr. Zarin, to proceed to go back with and refine your plans and submit a real application?
We are going to meet after this for a week charrette and put it together. Thank you. This is exactly the type of input that, you want to get up front. We know what we have to deal with. This was fantastic, and really appreciate the effort that everyone made to provide us with this input. And I agree. I think most of these things, in my experience, both generally and working with the town and the great people that you have and staff, we can work probably most of these out. And so thank you.
Oh, we can work all of them out. And let me conclude by stating what I should have probably stated at the very beginning, but I think I've already said that to you, Mr. Reynolds, et cetera, is thank you for investing in our town, for considering the investment in our town. We're aware this is a significant investment. To put it mildly, it's a significant investment. But this is a destination kind of experience that you're proposing. And as I said, there aren't many like it along the Hudson. There's architectural there's a requirement that your architecture is supposed to be consonant with anything that's on the historic registry, which would mean Farquhar Hall. But I think that we can get around that because we don't want to mimic old buildings in with this. This is an exciting new concept, and it needs to be kind of what it needs to be. That the amount of light, the glazing that you're providing there for, I would stay here too. I will say that straight out. This is a place that I would seek out and stay, although I don't need to because I live on the water myself. So at any rate, if we can do anything in the interim before you submit, if you want to have another offline meeting or pre-app meeting or whatever you want, just remember we're here to help.
No, I appreciate that. We're super excited about the project. The commentary and the feedback is helpful. We've all taken notes, and we'll go back and review accordingly and then come back for our formal submission. I most likely will take you up on the offer of, offline meetings just to discuss our advancements and let you know kind of where we're landing on some of the feedback that we got tonight relative to the design and some questions and or concerns.
Okay, then thank you very much, and we'll be in touch.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Thank you.
And there being no other items on the agenda, may I get a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion, Chris Oliver.
I'll second that motion, Ann Dexter.
I just want to point out that Ms. Whitman leaves your names there all the time. That's why you're always motioning and seconding to go into adjournment. It's become a permanent thing now. If you don't mind it, we'll just leave you there. So at any rate, all in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously. Mr. Garcia, you performed admirably tonight. Thank you so much for taking the time to provide comments.
Oh, no.
No, at first John was like, I'm going to abstain. I'm going to abstain from everything. And I was like, don't do that. He said the same thing. As soon as you're appointed, you're a full member of the board, and it's important to have your input in there too.
Well, I gotta go
Michael?
aboard a few things.
Yes.
What's going on?
Michael, are there digital files for the prior hotel project? I don't know how far in advance. Is it something that we could put either on the web or circulate around?
We were asking for digital files back then. So yes, there should be digital files of that original proposal. Something I should have added is, and Pete knows this, the area that they're more or less proposing the structures on is pretty much rock. I'm not talking like depth to bedrock, 6 inches to 2 feet. I'm talking rock up top. It's a very difficult area that they've been assigned. That noted, it does have magnificent views. I mean, you see a lot, you see far down. The real impact, I think, visually, the only impact visually would be on the walkway over the Hudson, because when you're at the walkway, you will be at times able to see this site. But you have to look for it because it's going to be blending in. Again, earth tones required, et cetera. So, but you will be able to see it. Here, and I'll also point out that you can also, as Ann has pointed out to me, you can also see the water tower on St. Andrews. So this is a significant improvement to the water tower, for God's sakes. Yes, this is a difficult site. And last time the stormwater, we didn't complete because stormwater took so long, it actually relocated or made the building relocate 3 times.
Yeah,
because
it was terrible. It was way too close to the cliff.
drawing this back helps. I think drawing this back helps, like you said, Pete, because it's out of the total rock outbed, and it means less blasting, I'm pretty sure. So we'll have to look down that. Tad did concern me when you saw that the line through they showed of the 2 villas that are within the 150. I mean, one is on stilts, practically speaking. Look at, they're 40 feet tall. That's a lot of grading to bring in there. So, but yeah, Bonnie, you just moved around for some reason. At any rate, because people are leaving, that's why. Bonnie, we can look for the files. I'm pretty sure they were submitted digitally back then, but that proposal was proposed 12 years ago and approved, I think, 10.
Okay.
So
I might have
paper
some
file.
too, Bonnie. I mean, if you know, the town doesn't have any, I still have access to our old Morris servers. So we probably still have some of that. So if the town doesn't have any, I'm sure I can find something.
Thanks, Pete. I'm just wondering like what older studies there might be, the archology, wetlands.
Yeah, there
et
was a
cetera.
lot of stuff done.
Yeah.
There was a lot. There was a lot.
And they've done
Alright.
even more now. Yeah.
Well, they were doing more looking where the villa locations would be. That's why you saw more signs of where they found pre-contact, shards and stuff. So
Right.
but nonetheless, this is an interesting project. And if we can get this going, plus the hotel across the way in Bellafield,
Yeah.
you have a transformation of your community. I mean that literally, a transformation.
Very exciting.
Yes.
So at any rate, thanks, guys. And I
Okay.
want to thank everybody for your personal comments and questions about my health as I was laying there languishing.
I'm glad you're feeling better.
I am so glad that I was inoculated in the first place because I realize now, I mean, I'm not positive. I haven't gone to the doctor yet. That's tomorrow I get a PCR test. But I think because I had pneumonia so many times, it did impact me worse. This is not a thing to play with. I can guarantee you. Because it went right into my lungs. I mean, it wasn't upper respiratory. It was down deep and not pleasant. So everybody stay safe, stay healthy,
You
stay
too.
sane, everything. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Michael.
Is there a
Thank
motion
you.
to adjourn?
It already happened.
Yeah, it was
Did,
done.
believe it or
Good.
not. Yeah.
Did we
Going,
vote? Did
okay.
we vote? All in favor?
Yeah.
We
Aye.
did.
We voted.
All
Okay.
right.
Good night.
Seems like it was a
Good night,
while ago.
all.